I moved to Detroit 1 year ago. Here's what's good, what's bad, what I learned, what you should know, and what up, doe. Before I start, I want to say that I do not live in downtown. I live in a neighborhood in the city of Detroit. I just want to make that note because, it's almost like living in two different places, comparing like downtown versus like the rest of the inner city neighborhoods. So I'm going to kind of do like a pros and cons list. So let's stick till the end to hear all the good and the bad. We have to start out with the first pro being the sheer amount of things to do in the city. Like there's always going to be something for you to do. Whether it's the best-in-class Detroit Riverwalk, which overlooks the Detroit River, which separates the US and Canada. Look across the river, you see Canada. That's pretty cool. Belle Isle, which is like an island with a bunch of stuff to do on there as well. And by the way, I haven't even been to Belle Isle, but that might be the best attraction in the city. Museums, whether it's history or the auto industry, auto museums, that's still a thing here in Detroit, the Motor City. Downtown, Midtown, with all the shopping, restaurants, and nightlife. There's casinos if you're into that thing. In the winter, you could do ice skating at Campus Martius Park. And so there's a lot of things to do. I haven't even scratched the surface on the suburbs. Like I've done a lot of things in the city of Detroit. I haven't even done everything here. There's still so many things I want to do. I also want to go visit a Great Lake. I've showed a lot of the things off on my channel as well. Whether you look at my video where I had all like the sports stadiums around downtown, or my most recent video, which was on the Heidelberg project. Check those things out on my channel. But let's get to the first con that I have. The first con has to be crime. That may be the first thing you think of when you think of Detroit. There's a high crime rate in Detroit. The highest violent crime rate of any major city in the US. The property crime, not too bad, but yeah, you have to keep that in mind. But I will say that I've lived here for a year. I've been to the worst of the worst neighborhoods. I've been to the best neighborhoods. I've been all over, and I've been to places at night. I've been to places during the day. And from my experience, I haven't felt any danger. That's not to say you can't get unlucky. There's certain places you don't want to go at night, certain neighborhoods. But if you are visiting Detroit, downtown's popping at night. You could generally feel safe there. You could generally feel safe in Detroit. I feel really safe in my neighborhood. But that's one issue to keep in mind. Let's go to our second pro, and that is going to be the price. And when I'm talking price, I'm specifically talking about housing. Compared to the rest of the US and other major cities in particular, the housing prices are super low. Same with the rent prices. If you're moving here from out of the area, it's actually insane. I was able to buy a house here for $115,000, so that's really good. Now, the opposite side of that is that wages aren't really that good. The overall income that people are making here is not really that high at all. There's a lot of poverty. Also, if you're looking at insurance, auto insurance, home insurance, and taxes, specifically property taxes, there is a city income tax, but insurance taxes really high compared to the rest of the US. Going back to jobs for a second, I will say that there are a lot of large corporations located in downtown Detroit, and then also the auto industry. The amount of people I've heard that work for Ford is kind of crazy. Those are decent paying jobs. Also, if you work in tech, I've heard it's really good here. It's only going to be growing because tech is everything nowadays. And to go on to our next pro, it's going to be that the city is on a major comeback. And so after 60 years of a downfall of Detroit, Detroit is now America's great comeback city. It's not by a long shot done improving. But you just look at the downtown that has been revitalized, neighborhoods around downtown. There still needs to be a lot of work in the rest of the inner city neighborhoods, but that will take time. You look at skyscrapers being built, new housing, people are starting to put Detroit on notice. And that might be you. That may be the reason you're watching this video right now. And that means that there's opportunity for growth, whether you're starting a business or in your general life. Or for me, buying a house, that appreciation, prices will eventually rise. They've already risen quite a bit in the past few years. That's one of the main things I really liked about Detroit, that comeback, that fight for greatness after being, beaten down and neglected for so long. So I said, it's not done by a long shot. And let's talk about one of the issues right now. Public transportation, not very good. Roads, not very good. Bike paths, not very good. Michigan Avenue that has a good bike path, but there's a lot of areas that just don't have any bike path. I ride my bike a lot, so that's bad for me. Public transportation, yeah, you could take the bus. There's a bus that goes pretty much everywhere in the city. There is a tram that goes down in the downtown area, and it goes a few miles or so. That's really good if that was like in the rest of the city. Like if you could take that from one side of the city to the other, like that'd be really great. It's just not there. It is expected to get better eventually. The city is actually building a 26 plus mile greenway that's going to go around the entire city, connect some of the neighborhoods through downtown. Basically a big huge loop around the city, but that's going to take like 10 years to build. So that's definitely something that's going on in the positive direction. It's just not here right now. That said, my next pro is that Detroit is really pretty. Aside from the Detroit River, which is gorgeous, overlooking Canada, that's really cool. Windsor, Ontario on the other side over there. Much of the architecture downtown. I will say like my favorite piece of architecture probably I've ever seen is Michigan Central Station, which is an old abandoned train station that's actually being revitalized right now by Ford Motor Company. It's going to be a transportation hub for the future, and so that's really cool. But probably my favorite thing to look at in Detroit is actually during winter, when the snow comes on and stays on the old brick houses. It looks really cool to me. That's what I can say about Detroit. Some parts look really cool. Now, some parts look really cool. Some parts also look very sad, worn down, and some may call them ugly. I personally don't mind a whole lot because I understand like the history behind it. But like there are a lot of abandoned houses. There's empty lots, stuff like that. You've probably seen them 100 times. Detroit used to have 3 times as many people as it does now. People left. Those houses and buildings were still there. I can understand how some people might get a creepy feeling around those abandoned houses. I personally don't mind them, like I said, but that's something you gotta know with Detroit. Detroit has a lot of abandoned houses, but not every neighborhood has them, and a lot of neighborhoods are actually really good. And that leads me to my next pro, which is that the uniqueness of the different neighborhoods. The uniqueness, what I mean by that is like, if you showed me like a picture of a certain house, I would say, oh, that looks like a Southwest Detroit neighborhood house, or that looks like a Warrendale house, or a Jefferson Chalmers on the east side, or University District, or an old Boston Edison mansion that are really cool. And so you look at every single different neighborhood, and I've been to a lot of them, and I just like how they're different. I like the design of the houses. And if you are moving to Detroit, there's a lot of really good neighborhoods to choose from. And even when you look at like the bad ones with many abandoned homes, like a lot of them are being worked on. Like people are buying them up for very cheap and, working on them and actually giving them some love. And this is kind of like an other con. I've noticed that there's some things that might not be in the city of Detroit. So when you are coming here, look at your activities, look at where you're going to be going, and, plan to live close to those places if that's what you want to do. For me, like I play Ultimate Frisbee, and most of the Ultimate Frisbee scene in Detroit is not actually in the city itself where I live. So I have to kind of, in some cases, travel, and it's kind of difficult for me. Maybe there's like some big stores that won't be in Detroit for whatever reason. They're located in the suburbs. So we talked about the diversity of the neighborhoods. Let's talk about the diversity of the people. And along with that brings culture and food. It's the Arab capital of North America. I actually did a video on that. There's many people who speak Arabic here. Detroit has the highest percentage of African American population of any major city. And there's literally a Mexican town in Detroit. There's that. And there's also the pride of the people. They really love their city. Like a lot of people have lived here for a very long time. They don't really care what the outside world has to say about them. They're always trying to work to improve their city. Like I need one of those Detroit versus everybody shirts. Like I need one of those because that's like the mentality of the city. But the really unsettling thing I found when I first moved here is I knew the situation, but when you look at the demographics of the city versus the suburbs, the city itself, really high African American population. The suburbs, really high Caucasian population. The Arabic portion, very centered around Dearborn, Michigan. And then also the Latin American population, really centered around Southwest Detroit. So I know there's a lot of history that leads into those reasons. Like I'm not trying to say like, oh, the people here are racist to each other. No, that's not the case. But it's something I had never experienced before in my life. It's something that I found unsettling, basically. By the way, thank you for continuing to stick around. I hope you're learning something about the pros and the cons of the city of Detroit, let's take a second to talk about the proximity of Detroit to other cities. On the East Coast, the cities are much closer together than on the West Coast, which is where I'm from. I'm from Northern California, and I wasn't really close to a whole lot. Like, I was near San Francisco, but, I'm not near LA. Not as many cities near, like, San Francisco as there's, like, Detroit. Like, Toronto's really close. Chicago's really close. Those are big ones. And then Cleveland is the closest major city, and a whole handful of other cities that are right here in striking distance of Detroit. That's definitely a positive for me, being someone who wants to travel. Might be visiting some of those places pretty soon. Fingers crossed. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when I do travel. And I definitely will be filming some videos and taking some pictures of the places when I do go there. So stay tuned for that. And probably the last really bad thing I have to say about Detroit is the reputation. It's got a bad rap. And I don't necessarily agree with it. Having lived here, even having just done research on the city, I grew up knowing Detroit as basically a bad place. And so to see and come here, see that it's not really all that it's said to be, I guess I'm just trying to change the narrative. Not to put it in great light, but just to put it in, like, real terms, So maybe the thing you've been waiting for, let's talk about the weather. Everyone talks about how cold it gets in Detroit, but no one talks about how hot it gets in Detroit. I mean, it's kind of hot for sometimes. I do like cold a lot more than hot weather, just because for cold weather, you can put on layers and whatnot, and eventually you'll be fine. But with hot weather, you can take off your clothes, but the thing is, you can't take off your skin. 5 months out of the year is cold. The rest is pretty good. Sometimes it's very hot. When it gets really humid, that's when it's tough. It does rain a decent amount here. The snow is a decent amount as well. None of them are the most in the country. It's colder than most places in the US, but I will say that is not the coldest. One of the reasons I actually moved here was to experience snow for the first time. Didn't get that in Northern California, obviously. So the final part of this video is I'm going to be answering the question, was it a good decision to move here? I think you might know the answer already, but I will say, if you do have any questions, whether you're visiting or potentially looking to move here, let me know anything I missed in the comments. Any question you have, be happy to answer it. And I think I should do a video on why I actually chose to move here. It was a sort of meticulous thought process on specifically things I was looking for, and then I narrowed it down to like a final 4. So if you want to see that, definitely hit the thumbs up to show you like this sort of content. So the final question, was it a good decision for me to move here? Looking back, did I do the right thing, in my opinion? And the answer is yes. To be able to essentially live here for free, because I bought a duplex and the rent on one unit more than covers my mortgage payment. The price of housing for a major city, a top 15 metro population in the US, to basically buy in at a small town price, that's insane. And have the opportunity to one day actually make it a difference and help some of the problems here, help make things better, that's insane as well. And did I mention I like the city? Like, the things to do and the places to see? Like, did that come across throughout the video? Maybe it didn't, but I like the city. I like it a lot, actually. With all of that being said, thank you for sticking around. I guess I'll just say peace out from the 313. Sheesh.